As tiny feet scampered across the oak-paneled floor, the morning light glistened through the curtains. Colorful balloons floated gently under the hum of a turning fan. On the centerpiece table, a cake adorned with blue frosting declared, "Happy first birthday, Leo." I watched my little boy giggle delightfully as Stephen tossed him up in the air. It's surreal to think that it's been a year since he arrived into our world, a day that forever changed my life. I'm Vanessa Carter, 31 years old, a mother, a wife, and someone who has endured family wounds deep enough to scar me internally, but not externally. Today, my life is brimming with affection and warmth. But to comprehend this happiness, let's rewind to the events that brought us here. A year back, in the thick of an 8-month pregnancy, I faced one of my lowest moments during my sister's wedding celebration. I was publicly shamed, attacked, and left to bleed while those who were supposed to protect me stood by. My own family, parents, sister, were the very people who had torn me apart again and again. Growing up, I lingered in the backdrop of my family's attention. My mother, Barbara, was more concerned with her appearance than my emotions. My father, Charles, would be lost in his world, responding only when my younger sister, Jessica, spoke. Jessica, always the star, received praise for the smallest of her accomplishments. My achievements, like getting into college or starting my own business, went unnoticed. Even when I excitedly announced my pregnancy, the reception was cold and dismissive. With that career, how will you manage? My mother didn't bother to mask her dismay, and my father nonchalantly continued reading his newspaper. Jessica's wedding invitation arrived as no surprise. Luxurious and ostentatious, exactly like her. Encased in a white silk envelope with gold embossing and a soft pink ribbon, it represented everything I was conditioned to expect from her. Stephen found the invite and placed it on our kitchen counter. Silently, I traced the ribbon but did not untie it. "Want to go?" Stephen asked softly, his voice filled with an understanding of the complexity behind the simple question. Part of me wanted to discard it, the other, a bruised daughter still clinging to a shard of hope, thought, perhaps this time will be different. I decided against my better judgment, hope over experience. We agreed that we would attend together and leave at any sign of discomfort. Stephen's support, as always, was unconditional. On the wedding day, dressed in an elegant but comfortable navy gown to accommodate my swollen belly, I braced myself. Despite the usual pregnancy discomforts, I was determined to look poised. I slipped into small sapphire earrings, a gift from Stephen, and completed my look. As we drove to the venue, Stephen's comforting presence kept me anchored, his hand reassuringly on mine. The wedding was exactly as expected, extravagant. As we arrived at the lavish estate, a wave of unease hit me, but I steadied myself for what was to come. Prepared for the fake smiles and rehearsed pleasantries, I wasn't quite ready for the theatricality that unfolded. The entire event seemed orchestrated for grandeur, leaving little room for genuine warmth or joy. An opulent estate repurposed as a grand venue dictated the outskirts of the suburb. The thought nagged at me, that familiar ache of not fitting in. The driveway was adorned with high-end vehicles, and the guests ascended marble stairs in radiant dresses, catching the early sunlight. I noticed a few faces, ladies from Barbara's social game nights, gentlemen from Charles's professional group, none of whom acknowledged me. Inside, the decor was a breathtaking blend of white and gold. Enormous chandeliers of crystal, vibrant bouquets of exotic roses, and pillars of ivory candles created a sight both beautiful and overwhelming. "Just breathe," Stephen murmured. "We won't be here long." We entered not to hugs from family, but a curt nod from one of Jessica's aides, who passed us an envelope marked "Reserved for overflow seating." Overflow, like excess baggage. Peering across the ornate ballroom, my gaze settled on my mother, elegant and aloof near the dais, in a custom ivory dress adorned with diamonds. Her hair was coiffed impeccably. Nearby, Jessica dazzled in a blush bridal gown that flowed like liquid light, photographers and her entourage encircling her. My smile was weak, not out of jealousy, but exhaustion from the veneer of indifference I had maintained. It pained me. The absence of concern during my pregnancy, the lack of support, the persistent feeling of being an outsider in my own family. This day magnified that pain, opening old wounds afresh. Stephen and I made our way to a secluded table by the hallway leading to the kitchen, far from the central festivities. Our table, with its creased linens and mismatched silverware, starkly contrasted the lavish decorations elsewhere. Stephen said nothing, but his grip tightened as he pulled out my chair. "It's fine," I reassured him quietly. "We expected this." He nodded, then excused himself to take a call outside, citing noise. A while later, needing to move, I stood. That's when I heard her. "Vanessa." There stood Jessica, her gown sparkling, curls styled perfectly yet seemingly effortless. Her smirk was as polished as her appearance, not quite meeting her eyes. "You're really showing," she remarked. At 9 months pregnant, I simply replied, "He's healthy." Her eyes drifted dismissively over my attire. "Couldn't you have chosen something more flattering?" Holding back frustration, I averted my gaze as the room began to fill, the photographers positioning for the bride's grand entrance. "Jessica," I started softly, maintaining my composure, "I'm here because I care about you, regardless of your feelings towards me." Something in her shifted at that, her features tightening. "Then prove it," she shot back suddenly. She pointed to an imposing marble vase along the aisle. "Move it closer to the front. It's in the photographer's way." I stared back, stunned. "You want me to move that? It's not heavy, unless being pregnant has incapacitated you completely." I stiffened. My voice steady, I reminded her, "Jessica, I'm 37 weeks pregnant. I should not be lifting heavy objects." She stepped closer, her tone venomous. "Then why bother coming?" I exhaled, turning to leave, but her hand pushed against me. It wasn't mild, it was purposeful. The room caught its breath. My body twisted, losing balance, and I fell to my knees. Pain seared through me, and suddenly warmth spread beneath me on the cold marble. The room, previously abuzz, fell deathly silent as the reality of the situation unfolded before their eyes. The room fell into an eerie quiet. A glass shattered distantly. The soft murmur of a camera shutter filled the air. I stepped back, heart hammering, eyes wide, caught between terror and disbelief. Across the expanse, my mother, Martha, gasped in dismay, her words a faint whisper. "What have you done?" At that moment, Jessica's voice sliced through the tension. "You've destroyed my wedding." My breath hitched. Panic clawed at my chest. My gown, heavy with fluid, clung to my skin. Murmurs swirled around, everyone reaching for their phones, their faces etched with horror as they edged away like I was a pariah. "You shouldn't have come," Jessica yelled. Just as I struggled to find my footing, my father's figure cut through the crowd, his face contorted with rage. Without a second's pause, he seized the closest object, a collapsed microphone stand, and brought it crashing down on me. The ghastly sound of metal meeting bone reverberated off the pristine floors. Silence enveloped me momentarily. Then a high-pitched ringing filled my ears, my vision smeared with red, and warmth oozed down my temple. Paralyzed, I couldn't fathom the reality that my father had struck me in public during a wedding ceremony, heavily pregnant. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A woman's shriek pierced the air, glass crashing in the distance. My legs buckled and I collapsed, the wet fabric of my dress cold against my skin. Pain radiated from my abdomen to the throbbing in my head. "Did he just hit her? She's bleeding and pregnant." The whispers grew into a chorus of shock and condemnation. Through the tumult, Jessica's shrill voice rang out again. "Why did you have to steal the spotlight today of all days?" Her concerns were her photographs, her social standing, her viral moment, none for my well-being. As I heard the sharp tap of heels approaching, my mother came into view, not with sympathy but scorn. "Get up," she hissed. "You're causing a scene." Blood dripped into my eyes as I looked up at her, realizing then that to them I was merely an obstacle, not a loved one. From the fringes, a furious voice bellowed my name. "Vanessa!" It was Chris. He bulldozed through the frozen onlookers, his expression tormented, as his gaze found me sprawled in a blend of blood and amniotic fluid. He dropped to his knees, cradling my face gently. "Who did this to you?" he breathed, his hands quivering as he sought signs of consciousness. My response was a barely there whisper. Tears clouded my vision. Voices erupted around us. It was her father! Her water broke and he struck her! Chris leapt to his feet, the fury in his eyes unmistakable. "Call an ambulance now!" His own phone was already pressed to his ear. "This is an urgent call. My wife, pregnant, has been assaulted. She's bleeding. We need help immediately, and the perpetrator is still present." His words spurred a sudden flurry of activity, replacing the earlier morbid fascination. A stranger rushed over with a cloth for my head while a young man placed his jacket under my neck. In the backdrop, a woman's voice demanded, "Detain that man! He assaulted a pregnant woman!" My father, meanwhile, had withdrawn, his hands trembling as he futilely attempted to justify his actions. Jessica's cries turned hysterical. "It's not fair. She's ruined everything. Today was supposed to be flawless." Chris returned to my side, squeezing my hand. "Help is coming, love. I'm here. You're going to be okay, I promise." For the first time since the disastrous events unfolded, a sense of safety enveloped me with his assurance. Within moments, the haunting wail of sirens cut through the turmoil. Police and medics stormed in, their presence commanding immediate attention. As they spotted me lying vulnerable, coated in blood, clad in my ruined gown with Chris shielding me, priorities were instantly realigned, shifting from scandal to rescue. From turmoil to decisive intervention, the chaos unfolded swiftly. "Everyone step back, clear some space," a paramedic hollered, crouching next to me. Detective Grant, his tall frame poised and alert, scanned the surroundings keenly. "Who is responsible for this?" he pressed. Numerous fingers were pointed towards my father, Charles. "He struck her with that tripod," one onlooker announced. "She's carrying a child and was down when he lashed out." Stephen stood nearby, visibly shaken yet keeping his composure. "She's on her 37th week of pregnancy. After a shove by her sister, then that hit from her dad, her water broke. She's been in agony and started bleeding not long ago. I insist on pressing charges against both," he declared firmly. Without delay, the officers responded. Charles was handcuffed on the spot, right there amid the festive decorations, his complexion draining to a ghostly white. Barbara, attempting to stall the police, exclaimed, "This is all a giant misunderstanding. You can't just arrest him with everyone watching." Detective Grant, unfazed and calm, responded, "Assaulting a pregnant lady is no trivial misunderstanding." Then Jessica, overwhelmed and disheveled, collapsed onto an ornate chair, her makeup smeared, her dress crumpled as she sobbed bitterly. "It was an accident," she cried out. "I didn't mean to shove her. She provoked this entire situation." However, her explanations faltered as the truth weighed heavily against her, and the cell phones that captured the event stood as undeniable proof. Detective Grant approached her, stating firmly, "According to eyewitnesses and video footage, you initiated the confrontation leading to the victim's injuries. You need to come with us, too." As the cuffs clicked around her wrists, Jessica's protests filled the air. "This can't be happening. Today's my wedding day." Stephen muttered to himself and knelt down by me once again as paramedics readied the stretcher. Amidst this, Barbara tried to argue the matter further, only to be intercepted by another officer. "Ma'am, you were verbally assaulting the victim while she was injured on the floor. You are now detained for obstructing justice and potentially abetting assault," the officer declared firmly. Soon, all three, my mother, my father, and my sister, were escorted out in handcuffs through the very door they had grandly entered hours earlier. Then, the final nail in the coffin for what was supposed to be a joyous occasion. Brandon's family, Jessica's would-be in-laws, had seen it all. His mother stood by the exit, her arms crossed, her face a mix of anger and repulsion. "This marriage is canceled," she declared sternly. "We refuse to connect our family name with yours." A stifled gasp echoed as Jessica's expression morphed into one of sheer terror. "No, please, you can't," she pleaded. "All the arrangements, the expenses—" But Brandon's mother cut her off sharply. "You've already spent your integrity, and it's clearly bankrupt." With that, they left. As I was lifted onto the stretcher, Stephen clasped my hand earnestly. One paramedic applied gauze to my temple, while another kept close tabs on my vital signs. We're heading to St. Grace Hospital, he informed us. You're stable, but we're getting the maternity team ready just in case you go into labor early. Stephen kissed my hand, whispering reassurance. I'm right here with you, all the way. As the ambulance doors shut, leaving the remnants of the spoiled wedding behind, I rested my head and quietly said, let their perfect facade crumble. I no longer seek their acceptance. I have my true family right here. The ambulance navigated through the city with urgency, sirens piercing the evening as inside. All remained peculiarly calm. One paramedic watched over the fetal heartbeat monitor while I tightened my grip on Stephen's hand. Hang in there, Vanessa. You're doing wonderfully. And the baby is stable, the paramedic reassured. Stephen's presence was comforting as he stayed close. I regret leaving you even for a moment. Had I known, he said, his voice laced with worry. I squeezed his hand, gently replying, none of this is your fault. They are to blame. The rest of the ride passed in a blur, marked only by the overhead lights, the rhythmic beeping of the monitor, and a strange, settling calm. It wasn't the tranquility of peace, but rather a focused, detached strength seen in those who have endured great turmoil. Upon arrival at St. Grace Hospital, the maternity team was promptly ready. Dr. Lisa Bennett, who had managed my prenatal care, was there, dressed in scrubs and a mask. Vanessa, you're in safe hands now, she assured me warmly yet firmly. We'll look after you and your baby. Stephen remained by my side as they wheeled me into the delivery room. He whispered repeatedly, you're strong. You're brave. He's nearly here. As labor progressed, spurred by the day's events, merged into one harrowing ordeal. Agony and pressure squeezing Marie's arm, echoed by cries to persevere, to grasp, to breathe anew. Her energy was depleted, yet her spirit marched on unwavering. And then the first cry echoed, a sound peppered with fresh life and hope. Her son, Max, entered the world as a beacon of resilience, heralding his arrival at just after 2 a.m. His little hands fluttering like tiny flags, his skin rosy and impeccable. Dr. Simmons tenderly laid him upon Marie's chest. And she wept, tears not merely of physical relief, but of a profound emotional catharsis. Hello, my love, she murmured, caressing his velvety cheek. Welcome to a brighter tomorrow. Next to her, Michael was visibly moved, his tears marking new beginnings, as he lovingly kissed Max's forehead, then hers. You made it, he whispered. You conquered everything. Their hospital stay spanned 4 days, crucial time that allowed Marie to recuperate from a severe head injury, from childbirth, and from deep-seated emotional wounds. The nurses treated her with dignity, not as a controversy, but as a person worthy of compassion. In those serene nights, with Max cradled in her arms and Michael's quiet snores in the background, Marie realized a potent truth. They might have tried to degrade her, ignore her, even shatter her, but her voice would resound stronger than before. Upon being discharged, gingerly pushed in a wheelchair with Max cozily nestled in his carrier, she turned to Michael, determination in her voice. Now we seek justice. He nodded, resolute. Let's meet with the attorney. Only 2 days after leaving St. Judith's Hospital, Marie and Michael entered the office of attorney John Parker, a man of unwavering resolve, his gaze steely and direct. Clutching Max to her, his tiny frame a peaceful contrast to the turmoil surrounding his birth, Marie laid bare her intentions to the attorney. This isn't just about a complaint, she declared. I want to press comprehensive charges. John didn't need persuading. He had watched the viral videos from the scene. The clips of Marie's fall at the wedding, her sister's shrieks, her father's reckless swing that struck her, all had amassed millions of views and ignited public fury on platforms from TikTok to Facebook. Outcry from women's rights groups, healthcare worker communities, and parenting networks underscored the public demand for justice. It was a daunting kind of exposure, yet it lent Marie a profound sense of validation. We'll press charges for aggravated assault, John articulated, planning also to cite endangerment of an unborn child, public violence, and psychological torment. With video proof and witness statements, their case was robust. They initiated legal proceedings that very day. What ensued was a flurry of judicial appointments, Hearings and testimonies where Marie remained a visible force, steadfast, with Max securely strapped to Michael's chest. The whispers of courtroom onlookers didn't faze her. The disapproving looks from erstwhile friends of her parents didn't deter her. Her focus was on the judge's decisions and what the jury perceived. Her mother, Eleanor, attempted to dismiss the debacle as a misapprehension. Her father, George, pleaded a momentary lapse due to fervor. Her sister Linda cast herself as the victim, lamenting her spoiled wedding day. But their facade didn't hold. The evidence was irrefutable. Security footage, attendee videos, and numerous testimonies unequivocally detailed their acts of humiliation, endangerment, and assault against Marie, heavily pregnant at that time and vulnerable. Finally, the judge delivered the verdict on a quiet Thursday afternoon. In a decisive tone, Eleanor Carter, George Carter, and Linda Carter were found guilty on all counts, sentenced to substantial prison terms without the possibility of early parole, acknowledging the heinous wrongdoing against Marie Carter and her infant son, Max. Marie finally breathed a sigh of relief, feeling Michael's comforting grip on her hand while Max dozed off untouched by the chaos. They were sentenced not out of vindictiveness, but because it was essential that the world acknowledged what she had endured. Because Marie refused to be silenced. With the judgment declared, everything transformed. Legally, sure, but more significantly, emotionally. For the first time, Marie savored the essence of true safety, devoid of the constant fear of reprisal, untouched by false pretenses or suppressed anguish. The chapter closed on Eleanor, George, and Linda, allowing Marie a new narrative shrouded not in sorrow, but in justice, resilience, and the enduring embracement of peace. The figures who were meant to cherish and nurture me had finally faced the consequences of their actions, confined by the justice system. It was our turn to mend our lives. Stephen and I settled into his ancestral home, an inviting two-story property, complete with a nostalgic wraparound porch and a perpetually flourishing garden. Despite his parents' passing some years back, the house retained a comforting warmth, as if it yearned for a new beginning with us. Leo's room became my canvas. I painted the walls a calming blue, scattered stars across the ceiling, and during quiet moments, I handcrafted animal murals as Leo slept. Each stroke resonated with my silent promises. You are safe. You are loved. You are free. Stephen resumed his job with a new, flexible arrangement, while I rejuvenated my event planning business from our home. This time, my approach was different. I wasn't hiding from my sorrows behind heaps of work. Instead, I was driven by passion and the dream of providing for Leo, a dream that included me being both happy and present. Our daily routine was punctuated by Leo's delightful laughter, soothing lullabies, and leisurely strolls through the local park. Community life transformed when we joined a church that welcomed us without prejudgments or whispers, a place where we were simply accepted. Many community members had kept up with our story online and approached me with words of support, reminding me of my courage and assuring me that Leo would be proud of his mother. Yet the most profound affirmations were the silent ones. Stephen's loving glances each night, and Leo's tiny hands reaching for me in drowsiness. Our family began to craft our own customs: Friday night pizzas, Sunday pancakes, and impromptu cuddles on Tuesdays while cartoons played in the background. Life in our house was far from perfect, filled with the chaos of sleepless nights and the inevitable messes of parenting, but it was genuinely ours. I had shifted from mere survival to genuinely living. On Leo's first birthday, the house basked in the soft golden hues of sunlight filtering through the windows. Balloons danced lightly in the air, and the room was perfumed with the scent of vanilla from the cake we'd baked the night prior. Stephen lit the final candle as Leo, adorned in a dinosaur onesie, wobbled excitedly across the room on his little legs, chuckling with each step. Observing them, my heart swelled in ways I never deemed possible. This day was monumental. It not only marked Leo's birth, but also the pivotal day my former life had dissolved, giving way to this new, peaceful existence. Vanessa and Stephen nodded towards me, signaling it was time to sing. Our voices were soft, imbued with emotion, and reserved solely for our little audience of one. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Leo. His glee was palpable as he clapped ecstatically, and my eyes welled up as we celebrated this milestone. As Leo smeared his finger in the cake's frosting, laughter filled the room and I cradled him, consumed by introspection. A year had passed, a year of profound change, healing, and forging ahead. I stood there, feeling a surge of release from the agony I had clung to, fully embracing the joy I once thought unattainable. The photo from our day at the courthouse caught my eye. It captured a moment of certainty, not sorrow. Stephen's arm was around me, providing unwavering support. Whispering into Leo's hair, I promised, "You will only know love and safety." That moment crystallized a realization. I hadn't merely become a mother. I had evolved into someone who no longer sought affection from those incapable of giving it genuinely. Leo's birthday symbolized a new chapter for him, and metaphorically, it was a rebirth for me too, free from the shackles of my past. As I looked down at my son, I knew our futures were filled with promise and untainted by the hurts of yesterday.